रूपं सागरजातां सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्ता राधाकान्ता नमोऽस्तुते तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये नमां विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृन्द हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा.
Thank you, Mataji, for starting off such nicely with the Mangalacharan prayers. So today, devotees will try to cover verses 61 to 63, since they go hand in hand. And for that, I'll ask Haladar Das Prabhu to guide us through the recitation of the three verses. Then we will do the word for word translation, the reading of the translation of the verse, and then the reading of the purport. So, Haladar Das Prabhu, do you want to please take over?
Yes. All the three you want me to recite, or one after one?
I mean, up to you, Prabhu. Maybe we can do one after one, but first the recitation and then we can do the reading.
Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna. We are in chapter 18, text number 61. It's on page number 700 on English Bhagavad Gita. So the wordings are Ishvaraha Sarvabhutanam Riddhesarjuna Tishtati Brahmayan Sarvabhutani Yantrarudhani Mayaya. Ishvaraha Sarvabhutanam Riddhesarjuna Tishtati Brahmayan Sarvabhutani Yantrarudhani Mayaya. Anybody want to try, or you want me to finish all three?
We are okay whichever way you want, Prabhu. Perhaps it is easier for people to follow you verse by verse. So maybe 61, then 62 and 63. So other devotees, please try to chant verse 61.
Hare Krishna. Sumati is reading. ईश्वरः सर्वभूतानां हृदयदेशेऽर्जुन तिष्ठति भ्रामयन् सर्वभूतानि यन्त्रारूढानि मायया. हरे कृष्णा.
हरे कृष्णा. ईश्वरः सर्वभूतानां हृदयदेशे अर्जुन दृष्टि भार्यवान् सर्वभूतानि यन्त्र आरूढानि मायया. हरे
कृष्ण. ईश्वरः सर्वभूतानां हृदयेषु अर्जुन तिष्ठति भ्रामयन् सर्वभूतानि यन्त्रारूढानि मायया. हरे कृष्णा.
Anybody else would like to recite? Okay. ईश्वरः सर्वभूतानां हृद्देशे अर्जुन तिष्ठति भ्रामयन् सर्वभूतानि यन्त्रारूढानि मायया. Hare Krishna.
Okay.
Prabhu, maybe we can go to verse 62.
Okay, text number 62. The wordings are Tameva Sarnam Gaccha Sarvabhavena Bharata तत्प्रसादात् परां शान्तिं स्थानं प्राप्स्यसि शाश्वतम् तमेव शरणं गच्छ सर्वभावेन भारत तत्प्रसादात् परां शान्तिं स्थानं प्राप्स्यसि शाश्वतम् Hare Krishna, please try it.
Hare Krishna. तमम् एवं शरणं गच्छ सर्वभावेन भारत तत्प्रसादात् पारं शान्तिमं स्थानं परप्रासि शास्त्रम्.
Good try, bro. Good try.
Hare Krishna. Sumati is reading text number 62. Tameva sharanam gaccha sarvabhavena bharata tatprasadat param shantim thanam prapsyasi shashvatam. Hare Krishna.
Good.
हरे कृष्ण तमेव शरणं गच्छ सर्वभावेन भारत तत्प्रसादात् परां शान्तिं स्थानं प्राप्स्यसि शाश्वतम् हरे कृष्ण
Hare Krishna. Tamev sharanam gaccha sarvabhavena bharata tat prasadat param shantim sthanam prapsyasi shashvatam. Hare Krishna. Anybody else, or can we move to verse 63?
Okay. Text number 63. Iti te jnanam akyatam. Iti te jnanam akyatam. Guhyataram maya. Vimrushet. Vimrushet tat aseshena. Vimrushet tat aseshena yatichati tatha kuru. Iti te jnanam akyatam guhyataram maya. Vimrushet tat asheshena yatichasi tatha kuru. Hare Krishna. Please try it.
Hare Krishna. इति ते ज्ञानम् आख्यातं गुहात् गुः मया विस्मस्य एतम् अक्षशेषं यथा इच्छसि तथा कुरु. हरे कृष्ण.
Hare Krishna. Sumati is reading. Iti te jnanamakyatam guhyataram maya vimrishyatad asheshena yatha ichasi tatha kuro. Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्ण इति ते इति ते ज्ञानमाख्यातं गुह्यात् गुह्यन्तरं मया विमृश्यैतदशेषेण यथेच्छसि तथा कुरु हरे कृष्ण
Hare Krishna. Iti te jnanam akyatam guhyat guhyetaram maya vimrishetad asheshena yatechasi tatha kuru. Hare Krishna. Anybody else? Okay, so we have the three purports to read, three translations to read, and three word for word. So, devotees, please feel free to divide amongst yourself and begin the readings.
I'll read
Yeah, go ahead.
translation for 61.
Thank you, Prabhu. So maybe you can do the word for word if you have the book in front of you and also the translation.
Sorry, I didn't hear.
So, there is word for word meaning. So Ishvara, like the Supreme Lord. So if you could do word for word meaning and also the translation, which is in the bold letters.
Okay.
it's in the database also probably you can read
Yeah. So Iswara is Supreme Lord, Sarva Bhutanam, all of all living entities. Or let's say in the location of the heart, Arjuna, O Arjuna,
Tishtati.
and Tishtati reside, and Brahmanan causing of travel, and Sarva Bhutani all living entities, Yantara on a machine, Arudhaniti being placed, Maya under the spell of material energy. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart. O Arjun is directing the wandering of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, can I read purport, Prabhuji?
Yes, sure. Go ahead, Mataji.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Arjun was not the supreme knower, and his decision to fight or not to fight was confined to his limited discretion. The Lord Krishna instructed that the the individual is not all in all. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, or He Himself, Krishna, as the localized super soul, sits in the heart of directing the living being. After after changing bodies, the living entity forgets his past deeds, but the super soul, as the knower of the past, present, and future, remains the witness of all his activities. Therefore, all the activities of living entities are directed by his super soul. The living entity gets what he deserves and he carried by the material body, which is created in the material energy under the direction of the super soul. As soon as a living entity is placed in a particular type of body, he has to work under the spell of that bodily situation. A person seated in a high speed motor car goes faster than one seated in a slow car, though the living entities, the drivers, may be the same. Similarly, by the order of the supersoul, material nature fashions a particular type of body to a particular type of living entity, so that he may work according to his past desires. The living entity is not independent. One should not think himself independent of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The individual is always under the Lord's control. Therefore, one's duty is to surrender, and that is the injunction of the next verse. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Maybe Aladar Das Prabhu, you can read verse 62.
Okay. The translation word by word is tam
Yeah.
unto him eva certainly Sarnam Gacha, surrender. Sarva Bhavena, in all respect. Bharata, O son of Bharat. Tat Prasadat, by his grace. Param, transcendental. Shantim, peace. Sthanam, the abode. Prapsasi, you will get. Saswatam, eternal. Translation by Prabhupada ki jai. O sign of Bharat, surrender unto him utterly. By his grace you will attain transcendental peace and the supreme and eternal abode. Hare Krishna. Welcome to read somebody with the purport, please.
Hare Krishna, can I read?
Yes, Mataji.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada and Srila Prabhupada ki jai. A living entity should therefore surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated in everyone's heart, and that will relieve him from all kinds of miseries of this material existence. By such surrender, not only will one be released from all the miseries in this life, but at the end he will also reach the Supreme God. The transcendental world is described in the Vedic literature Rig Veda 1.22.20 as Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam. Since all of creation is the kingdom of God, everything material is actually spiritual. But Paramam Padam specifically refers to the eternal abode, which is called the spiritual sky or Vaikuntha. Hare Krishna, would anybody else like to read? Or should I continue?
Continue, Mataji. There is also verse 63, so go ahead.
Hare Krishna. In the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it is stated, Sarvasya Chaham Hridi Sannivishta. The Lord is seated in everyone's heart. So, this recommendation that one should surrender unto the Super Soul sitting within means that one should surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. Krishna has already been accepted by Arjun as the Supreme. He was accepted in the 10th chapter as Param Brahma Param Dhama. Arjun has accepted Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the supreme abode of all living entities, not only because of his personal experience, but also because of the evidence of great authorities like Narad, Asit, Devala, and Vyas. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anybody else would like to begin with verse 63? The word for word meaning and the translation and the purport. It's okay if you have to go ahead second time. Yeah,
I'll
go
do it, Prabhu. This text number 63. It says, Iti te jnanam akyatam guhyat guhyataram maya vimrsit tat asheshena yatechasi tatha kuru. Iti, thus, te unto you, sorry. Jnanam, knowledge. Akyatam, described. Guhyat, then confidential. Guhyataram, still more confidential. Maya, by me. Vimrishya, deliberating. Etat, on this. Asheshena, fully. Yata, as. Ichasi, you like. Tata, that. Kuru, perform. Translation by Prabhupada. Prabhupada ki jai. Thus, I have explained you knowledge still more confidential. Deliberate on this fully, and then do what you wish to do. Hare Krishna. Anybody wants to read the purport, please?
Yes, Hare Krishna, I'll read it. The Lord has already explained to Arjuna the knowledge of Brahman Bhuta. Who one is in the Brahma Bhuta condition is joyful. He never emanates, nor does he desire anything. That is due to the conditional knowledge. Krishna also disclosed knowledge of the super soul. This is also Brahman knowledge. Knowledge of Brahman, but it is superior. Here the word yateshta chasi tat kuru, as you like, you may act, indicate that God does not interference with the little independence of the living entity. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord has explained in all respect how one can elevate his living condition. The best advice imparted to Arjun is the surrender into the supreme soul seated within his heart. By right discrimination, one should agree to act according to the order of the super soul. That will help one become situated constantly in Krishna consciousness, the highest perfection stage of human life. Arjun, Arjuna is being directly ordered by the personality of Godhead to fight. Surrender to the super personality of Godhead is in the best interest of the living entity. It is, it is not for the interest of super soul before surrendering. One is free of deliberate on the subject for the intelligence course. This is the best way to accept the instruction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such instructions comes also through the spiritual master, the bona fide representative of Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, dear devotees, for helping with the readings of the word for word meaning, the translation, and the purports. So I'll just chant a small prayer for myself before I begin. Hare Krishna. So before we begin our discussions, a very quick recap of chapter 18. So chapter 18 begins with Arjuna's inquiries as to what is sacrifice and what is renunciation. So the Lord, that particular conversation happens over verses 1 to 12. Then the Lord goes into details of the causes and factors of action. So where he explains that there are 5 causes and 3 factors of action. So that is verses 13 to 28. The Lord also explains the knowledge, action, and worker and their 3 qualities. So that's up to verse 28. Then he goes into the explanation of different types of understanding, determination, and happiness up to verse 39. And now the Lord makes a pivot from thereafter. So he says, he explains the 4 varnas, where we all are, most of us are engaged in sakam activities. Sakam activities are activities with some intention to enjoy the outcomes of that activity. So, what the Lord is explaining from verse 40 to 49 is how we can progressively move from sakam karma, that is fruitful activities, and with an intention to enjoy, to nishkam karma, that we will perform our activities with a sense of beauty, not necessarily with a sense of enjoyment. And slowly we will give up the fruits of such activity. And when we get steady into the practice of renunciating the fruits, giving up the fruits or sacrificing the fruits of the activity, will slowly even end up giving up fruitful activities themselves. So we get to the stage of Nishkam Karma. From Nishkam Karma, then in verses 50 to 55, the Lord describes the progress that Nishkam Karma will immediately, when you link it to the Lord, it becomes Karma Yoga. When you practice Karma Yoga, you actually end up getting Jnana, that, whatever we've been doing is actually meaningless, that, everything belongs to the Lord, etc. Therefore, there is, we act in the knowledge that everything belongs to the Lord. Everybody else is also acting in the same knowledge. Everybody else is also in the same boat. And therefore, there is no question of, love or hatred. There is just compassion. There is no liking or disliking, etc. So the dualities start to fall off. So, and that's why the Lord has also already said before that these are all different paths and they all merge at one point. That merging point is Brahma Bhuta stage. So Nishkam Karma leads to Karma Yoga to Jnana Yoga, and that brings us to the Brahma Bhuta stage. That is when all the paths have come to a point where people have realized that they are not the body, they are the soul. You are at a platform. So we are currently at the bodily platform, and then you come to the soul level platform, where the rest of the matter that is encapsulating the soul, we understand it is not part of us, that it is there, but it's not us. It's like a cloth we are wearing. So once we realize that, everything around us is temporary, the only thing that is permanent is the Lord's energy, whether material energy or internal energy of the Lord. the bhakti, etc., and the Lord. So then the soul, because the soul's quality also is eternal, starts to then serve the permanent and not the temporary. So that's why in verses 56 to 60, the Lord describes pure devotional service. And he says that pure devotional service actually arises after the Brahma Bhuta stage. So that's we ended last week at verse 60. Now the Lord is moving from the knowledge of Brahma Jyoti or Brahma platform, where the soul has reached that platform. He is now moving to the knowledge of super soul. And in verses 61 to 63, he describes the knowledge of the super soul. Of course, all of this knowledge is confidential. So Brahma Bhut knowledge is confidential, but that's why the Lord is now saying knowledge of super soul is even more confidential than the knowledge of the Brahma Jyoti. So and he says that in verse 63. And hereafter, when we get to later to reading of verses 64 to 66, the Lord is going to say that I am going to tell you even more confidential knowledge, because in those verses he is going to speak about the Bhagwan feature of the Lord, the personality feature of the Lord. And this is in line with Srimad Bhagvatam. There is one particular verse, uh, first canto, second chapter, verse 11, where the Lord says, वदन्ति तत् तत्त्वविदस्त्वं तत्त्वविदस् तत्त्वं यत् ज्ञानम् अद्वयं ब्रह्मेति परमात्मेति भगवान इति शब्दते. So the meaning of that verse is that same non-dual substance is realized by the knowers of the truth in three stages. First stage is to know the Brahma Jyoti, then to know the super soul, and then to realize the Paramatma, sorry, the Bhagwan stage. So that's what is being described. And since 18th chapter is the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita, even though the Lord has covered the knowledge of the super soul in variously in multiple chapters, including chapter 7, 8, then chapter 13, etc. Even chapter 15, he speaks of all three stages. Chapter 9 specifically speaks of the Bhagwan, knowledge of Bhagwan. Uh, so he's covered it. And since this is summarization in within 10, 15 verses, he's covering all of the things he's spoken about himself. So that's the relevance of these three verses and the meaning behind because we often hear people say, why does the Lord say this is confidential? Then again, he says this is also confidential. That is more confidential. So this is the elaboration of what it is. So knowing that this we are not the body and the soul, and that the platform of the soul, that Brahma Jyoti on which the souls rest, not the bodily platform, that itself is Krishna. He said that in chapter 14, verse 27, that I am Brahmano hi pratishtaham. I am the support for that Brahma platform. Uh, and then we get to this various knowledge. To Super Soul and to Bhagwan. So now let's talk about the Super Soul feature in verse 61 to 63. But before we get there, let's understand how the Lord is speaking about this, because that itself is significant. So in chapter 14, verse 27, the Lord says, I am the support or platform on which Brahma Jyoti rests. Or where in this verse 61, the Lord is saying, Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam, sorry, I'm going to verse 15 of chapter 15. But yeah, Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Riddeshe Arjun Tishtati. So why is he speaking as if Ishwar is somebody else? So it's, or why is he not saying that I stay in everyone's heart? He says that in chapter 15, but here he is speaking a slightly different. He's speaking in a third person language or third person reference. So why is he doing that? That is because it's like, say, the guru or say the parent saying, you must follow what I tell you. So the guru is saying that follow what the guru says. The parents are saying you must respect the parents, whether the father or the mother is saying so. So, yes, when they speak of the post, they are speaking about themselves being the holder of that post, but they are speaking of the post and what comes with that post that they are holding. So the Lord, when he's speaking of the Brahmana stage or the Paramatma stage, he's speaking of that as a platform. But you will see how he speaks of in say 934 or 1866, 1865 and 66. He speaks of himself because there is a difference. You may follow the Guru, you may respect the parents, but your relationship with the Guru, when you see the Guru as a person, when you see the parents as that individual, your loving propensity is much different. Even the father, he may play the role of a father, but he also is a person. And that is the most confidential knowledge as to how to deal with the Lord in his personal aspect. So I wanted to elaborate as to even the Lord, when he is referring to himself, he is basically speaking of him and the different roles he plays, the posts he holds as different from what he is as a person. So that was, I thought, a bit significant and wanted to elaborate that. Now we come to the actual verse itself, the three verses. Uh, we'll come to the first line a little later. We'll follow the second line. Yantra Rudhani Maya. So to understand this verse 1861 as to how the soul is situated in this yantra or instrument, how that instrument or what makes up that instrument, how that instrument operates, uh, why is the soul in that instrument, or why a particular instrument is given to a particular soul, etc., has been actually covered throughout Bhagavad Gita, but there are some specific verses that you may want to make a note of that I think are related and they sort of connect with each other. So the first thing is we are part and parcels of the Lord. The Lord says, Mamevancho Jeev Loke. So he is transcendental. We are also, as parts of him, transcendental. Mamevancho Jeev Loke, Jeev Bhuta Sanatana. Mana Shasthani Indriyani Prakriti Sthani Karshati. So, because of their mind and senses, they are engaged with material nature. Then he says, Maya Dhakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam. This is verse 10 from chapter 9. Hetu Nanena Kaunteya Jagad Viparivartate. So, this material nature, this instrument is operating under my direction. Maya Dhakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam. Then this verse comes in 1861. So, the link between 15.7, the eternal soul, the transcendental soul actually, is engaged with the nature. How? As a passenger sitting in a car. That is verse 61, the one that we just read. Now, how is that car moving? The car is moving when we read chapter 15, verse 15, the first two lines of it. So, what is that? Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha. So the Lord gives the memory, the intelligence, and the forgetfulness. Why memory? Memory because if you don't, because you have enjoyed, say, a sweet before, then that memory is there in your mind as to what that sweet looks like, what its characteristics are, uh, what was your feeling when you ate it, and that memory immediately reawakens the desire to enjoy that same object again when, say, the sweet meat is in front of you. So that memory, then that intelligence. So the intelligence part is again, oh, yes, it is sweet. It is something that I like, but it's not good for me, maybe for calorie, maybe for blood sugar, etc., etc. So there is that intelligence portion also, and then forgetfulness also is there that propels this instrument to continue to act, not to act, to respond, not to respond to different worldly situations. Now, it is not just the living entity, because in verse 23 of chapter 13, which is another connected verse, the Lord actually says, Udrashta cha anumanta cha bharta bhukta maheshwara, I think. Yeah. So where the Lord is saying, I am the witness, I am observing, I am permitting. So he is permitting the movement of that instrument. Bharta, he is the facilitator and the provider of that instrument. And he is the bhokta, he is also the enjoyer. He doesn't enjoy our individual activities, but in his yoga nidra, he is enjoying everything that is happening in the world. So what we see as reality, the Lord is seeing almost like a dream state in his own thing. The whole thing is happening, he is enjoying in his own way by being aloof from it. So what happens is, while this is the reality, in chapter 3, verse 27, the Lord actually explains to us that Krite kriyamanani gunakarmani sarvashah ahankar vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. So while the instrument doesn't belong to us, the movements of the instruments do not belong to us. The intelligence, the desire, etc., also are material and come and go. The energy that drives this instrument does not belong to us. Somehow, the passenger thinks that he is the owner of the car, that everything around him, the road, the scenery, everything belongs to him and it is for his enjoyment. And because that is the thinking with which the soul is going through his journey in that car, he suffers the consequences of wherever he is taking the car. So if the car is going to a ditch, he suffers the jolt. If the car is going smoothly, he's enjoying the ride. If the car goes to a bad part of the town or through bad scenery or areas where bad smell is, he faces that situation. Where the car goes to a nicer place, he's enjoying the nicer situation. Because the scenery is so powerful, the attachment to the car is so powerful. The only way to come out of it, the Lord has explained in chapter 7, verse 14, that Devi hi esha gunmai mam maya duratyaya, that it is very difficult to come out of it. But mam eva ye prapadyante maya metam tarantite. So please surrender to me, and then that is the only way to come out of this material nature. So to come out of this instrument, we have to rely on the Lord. This instrument that we are talking about, it's, this body. So you have to understand, just like any other instrument, if you think of computer, there is hardware, there is a software, and there is the network. All three are required. Similarly, for the instrument that is encapsulating our soul, has the hardware, which is the body, the physical layer. And then there is the subtle body, the software, the mind, intelligence, and ego. So the hardware and the software both have to be there. Both are provided by the Lord. And then there is the network. In chapter 7, I think verse 4 or verse 8, the Lord says that, everything rests on me as pearls strung on a thread. So he is the one who's connecting. We could not interact in this world if the whole world was not there. If suppose just us and our instrument is there, but there is no road, there is no scenery around us, there are no other cars, there are no other things to interact with, it would not have happened. The whole network also has to be there, and the network is being provided by the Lord. And the way to understand this network and to come out of this network, or to connect this network to him, the transcendental state, then the Lord has explained that connection happens to him, the creator of this hardware, software, and network, happens through Sankhya Yoga, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, or Bhakti Yoga. So the question is, why do we need this instrument? Why could we not have just come to this material nature, but without getting this instrument? And therefore, we would have always known that we are the soul. The reason is, it's a crude example, but it will convey the point. If we are in a foreign environment, let's say you want to get into water, then you need certain equipment around you to live and be in the water. If you want to be in the air, you need a certain equipment to fly in the air, because it is a foreign environment for us. Similarly, if we are in a place where we have to go into significant heat, cold, rain, etc., we need some sort of covering around us. Otherwise, we will face a whole lot of misery. We will not be able to enjoy. When the soul desired that it wants to enjoy, but it was not his position to enjoy, the Lord had to create this virtual reality for us. So he had to create this instrument. It's not like, he just gave it willy nilly. Because the child wants to enjoy the video, some sort of enjoyment, the Lord has created a virtual game for the child. The game can only be played through a certain hardware and through a certain software, and that is this yantra. You can think of this as either the child playing with a video game. You can think of this as people watching movies. So if you want to enjoy a movie, you have to go to the theater. And what happens is the child just gets entrapped into the game, one game after another game, one level after another level. And in the multiplex of this world, the child who went to watch one movie does not want to come out of the movie. He identifies with the movie and the subject of the movie so much that keeps watching one movie after another, one birth after another, and that desire just doesn't end. So that is the need for the instrument. So why that instrument, and why we are in a foreign environment? We need to recognize that we are in a foreign environment. We need to go back to the original environment, the transcendental environment, where we don't require this instrument. So that's a key aspect of understanding verse 61. Now, another way to look at this is, perhaps 2 or 3 classes ago, we spoke of the 24 elements. They are made out of the 5 basic elements, sky, ether, then air, fire, earth, and water. Then there are the 5 senses, sense objects. Then there are the 5 senses or sense acquiring object organs. And then there are the 5 working organs. So that's 20. And then there is the mind, intelligence, ego, and Mahatattva. Basically, this is nothing else but combination of different types of atoms and energies that give different shapes, forms, sizes, characteristics to different things. But if you really break it down to their elemental form, it's nothing else but a mass of atoms around us. Because the soul is different from the atoms and it is so minute, it is like the soul is swimming in this ocean full of energy and atoms around us. We just associate it with the body and we think this is the body, but it's actually a combination of different types of atoms. So that is how it is. It is not just a figurative way of saying this is an ocean. Bhav Sagar is not a figurative way of saying Bhav Sagar. It is an actual Sagar if you really understand. And we are submerged in that ocean as a soul. A very minute particle is submerged in that ocean. Now, that not only are we submerged, we have an instrument around us. If we don't know how to use that instrument, it can become a trap. You can actually keep falling down in that ocean. But if we know how to use the instrument, then we can come out of the ocean. So that is also the purpose of the ocean. The instrument, the yantra. We have to also understand that different yantras come with different capacity. Not only capacity in terms of speed or its characteristic, but also in the sense that it only allows certain amount of freedom to the passenger. So a yantra of a dog, cat, or a pig has certain limitation. The soul has to act only what is allowed within that yantra. But when we have the yantra of a human body around us, then we have a little bit of control over the hardware. We can control our body and bodily desires. We can control the software. We can control our mind, our intelligence, our ego. And we can use this, we can leverage this ability to control the yantra and to direct it to come out of this problem. So that is the significance of having a yantra of the human body or human life form. Now, this is why when you truly understand what this yantra is, the limitations of different types of yantras, etc., and the significance that we have these 100 years, of which perhaps somebody has exhausted 15, 20, 25, 50, 75 years. But whatever is remaining, we need to make use of that time to come to the destination. If we don't do that, if we don't make use of this human life form, then we've talked about the different types of planetary systems and different life forms, etc. But just one another verse that actually conveys the point. It's a Bengali thing where it goes like Hari Hari Bifale Janma Gunaino Manushya Janma Paiya Radha Krishna Na Bhajiya Janiya Suniya Vishakhaino. It is like you are actually committing suicide. Not only suicide, you force yourself to go back into. It's like, there is a queue with 8.4 million things standing in the way, and you go back into that queue. You came to point one. You could have gone to come out of that queue. You could have enjoyed. But if we do not use this life form, you go back to 8.4 million species and keep circulating in there. There is no guarantee because that queue does not move in a linear form. You could go forward, you could go backward. So now that we are here, how important it is to make use of this yantra. So how do we make use of this yantra? If you know that you have a car, what is the purpose of a car? It is to know where you are and to get to the destination you want to go to. That is the first thing we do. Whenever we get into a car, we say, okay, where do I want to go? And what is the road to get there? So if we have to fix the destination, if we do not fix the destination, then we are going rudderless. We don't know what this journey is for. You may, you intended, every soul has intended with birth that it wants to accomplish something. Say you wanted to go in the east direction, but you get so directed, we all get so directed, we don't know whether we're actually progressing in east or not. We may go north, we may go west, we may go south, we may keep circling here and there. So the next logical step after knowing that we are the soul, this is the yantra, this yantra operates in a certain way, we need to give it a very clear direction. What is my destination? And not to get distracted by the type of car that we have and the type of scenery that we see on the way. The moment we get engrossed in the car, the thinking, what I mean by that is the thinking that I am white, I am beautiful, I am strong, or I am not so strong. Why is that person more good looking than me? Why is that person more intelligent? Or I am more intelligent? I can do this. This is just comparing your car. But if we go from one destination to another, you just hire a taxi and you go. You don't think and you don't take ownership and feel pride whether the taxi is air conditioned, that it is the newest taxi or the first taxi. first ride of that taxi and the kilometer is 0, etc. You don't care. You just care that you get to the destination. And that is how we should be using this life form. When you are going to the destination, good, enjoy the scenery, but don't get lost in the scenery. Scenery is the life situation around us. Whether our family life is good, bad, office life is good, bad, whatever situation is there, that is the scenery. But we need to focus on the destination. Don't get lost in the scenery. Don't create detours for yourself. Because when we don't know the destination, or even when, as a sadhaka, we start our days with, Mangalarti and chanting and all that, we sort of set the destination saying, oh, GPS, take me there. But throughout the day, we keep taking detours. So, you travel 5-10 kilometers and then you say, oh, this is nice. Let me go there. Let me do this. Let me enjoy this. In the end, or towards the end of the day, it is possible that you are actually behind from where you started. So progressively, an intelligent person will always look at whether he is moving forward towards the destination or not. So that is another aspect of understanding what kind of instrument it is, how to use it, why we get lost in it. Just think of this example. If an accident happens to the car, the passenger may be good, but what does the person normally say? I got into accident. No, you didn't get into an accident. The car got into an accident. But our association with the car is so much that we say, I got into an accident. And it's the same thing with the body. So we need to come out of it. And this is also if somebody wants to relate this to why we feel sufferings and happiness, and why, while the soul is just the passenger, the questions do come. People keep asking this again and again. So read chapter 13, verses 21 and 22 as to what is happening on the road is cause and effect. Something is the cause, something is the effect. We internalize the cause and the effect as likes and dislikes, happiness, distress. The moment we stop that, we are aloof from it. So that is the answer to why we think or why we suffer, etc. So that was another aspect of this verse. So now this is just the second line. So let's come to the first line. Ishvara Sarvabhutanam Viddeshe Arjuna Tishtati. So he is the one who's sitting in the car along with us. He is the provider of the car. He is the mechanic of the car. He has developed the software for the car. He provides the energy for the car. He knows the best destination we can have. So just surrender unto him. And that is the last line of the purport Prabhupada puts, that he has the capability. He knows what is good for us. Prabhupada has actually described in between the verse as to why, if you think about why Prabhupada is speaking about previous birth and the next birth, etc., because he knows where we've come from. He also knows where we ought to go. So we need to look to him. We need to surrender to him. And that is what verse 62 is. Tameva sharanam gaccha sarva bhavena bharata. And with his prasada, you will reach complete peace and that eternal abode. So this is again the link between verse 61 and 62. 61 is very significant. That's why I spent a lot of time on verse 61. But verse 62 is, and the first line of verse 61 are linked, because he has that capability, because he is so loving, because he does all of this for us. Just take his shelter, and through his mercy, through his benevolence, he will take us to the best destination. Not only that, he will take us out of this material nature, he will take us to Vaikuntha. So that was verse 62. And then verse 63 is basically that this is a confidential knowledge. Guhyat Guhyataram Maya, and it is more confidential that knowledge than the knowledge of Brahma Jyoti, or that we are Brahma or the soul. And look at the beauty of how Sanatan Dharma or the Lord interacts with us. Forget about this designation of this Dharma or that Dharma, we belong to a certain this thing or that. But the magnanimity of the Lord's dealings with the Jivas. That he says, I have told you everything. I have given you the most secret of knowledges. Now deliberate on this fully. That action is ours, the deliberation. Whatever we've spoken, whatever we've discussed so far in this class, that deliberation on what was said is for us. We have to internalize. Do not, many times we read Bhagavad Gita as if it's something that is happening between Arjuna and Krishna. We read purports of Prabhupada as if it is being said to the general masses. No, it is a personal journey. It is for us. And unless we internalize it, we will not benefit from it. And that is again the uh, democratic, loving, respectful way with which the Lord deals with us. He says, that's your action, and you do whatever pleases you. Yatechasi tatha kuru. You do what you want. I have equipped you with everything. I've given you the knowledge. I've given you the ability. Now you figure out. So this is where the three verses end. I want to give a small summary or conclusion. So we discussed what we've discussed, but as I was deliberating on these verses, even though I had read verse 61 so many times, and when we look at Bhagavad Gita and the very cover of Bhagavad Gita, what do we see on that cover? We see the Lord as the charioteer and Arjuna is sitting. And many times I used to think it is so fortunate of Arjuna to have had the association of the Lord so closely and the guidance of the Lord so closely. Then it dawned on me yesterday in a different way, right? Like it's not like it doesn't, it's not there or the knowledge is not there, but it hits you. That sudden realization happens that the Lord is treating us no different like Arjun Maharaj. We are sitting on that instrument. He is sitting on that Ratha. He is the Parthasarthi for Arjuna. He is the Parthasarthi for each one of us. We let this thought sink in. He is there with us. He's right there. Even in this moment, as I'm speaking, He's the Parthasarthi. He's guiding me to speak, you to hear, you to understand, you to imbibe, and you to act. How beautiful this is. Suddenly, something that happened 5,000 years ago on the battlefield of Kurukshetra is so real and so personal. He is there. You don't have to look at anybody else. You have to just ask him. It's like, the radio. The radio waves are always there. You just need to tune into the radio. You need to reduce the rest of the noise and tune in. And that is all that is required for us to benefit from this, to come out of this, to make use of this yantra, to look at the driver of this car and just tell him to take me to the destination. Or I don't know the destination, I don't know the path, you guide me. And he will guide us the way he guided personally Arjuna. All the arrows that were getting shot at, all the perils of the war, the Lord basically was protecting Arjuna every moment. And that is how he is dealing with us every moment. And yet, do we serve him? Like we are supposed to serve him because he is the Lord, he is the provider. We should be full of gratitude to him. But forget about gratitude, forget about serving. Are we even respectful that he is there and he is doing this for us? We are actually contemptuously ignorant of him. We sort of put him aside and carry through the day as if it doesn't matter. This is how we are. Once we realize, then, how Arjun Maharaj was saying, in my stupidness, I called you my friend, I ridiculed you, I played with you, I joked with you. The same sort of feelings will happen to us if we really live these words. So I wanted to share this realization of mine with you as you contemplate on verses 61, 62, and 63. Let's not be taken by the car, the quality of the car, the scenery, and the hundreds of distractions. Let's not tell the Lord to keep taking detours. Let's fix the destination. Let's move on with our journey and make use of this instrument that the Lord has given, because the instrument of human life form, is very significant. So, with that, I'll stop the discussions on these three verses from my side. I'm happy to have questions, comments, and realizations from other devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. This is Vinod Maheshwari. In this platform, I hear many good speakers, but I don't know why I wait for your, lectures. I don't know. You're so special, and you speaks very nice. So today you said many things, and I have many questions, but I cannot take everybody's time. But last thing you say is, I also believe भगवान के दर्शन करने से बढ़िया भगवान की अनुभूति करना। अनुभूति हर पल होएगी, दर्शन तो कभी होंगे या नहीं होंगे एक बार भी। But I think that's what you're describing when you see all the time his presence, you feel it. So I also feel like seeing from eyes is that important, or seeing from our senses or his presence. I think that's what he is saying. Am I right or wrong?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Very deep question as to how and where we realize, whether realization through the eye or through the heart and in the mind, in intelligence. So, Prabhu, you know, I mean, seeing the Lord is seeing the Lord. But in somewhere in Bhagvatam, I've actually read Prabhupada say that even that darshan happens on the screen of the mind. So it is always the anubhuti. Even the darshan cannot happen. Like even Arjuna had to. We see the Lord, but we see the Lord only when He allows us to see through that divya chakshu. So we may see the Lord form, but we do not see Him as in really seeing Him. Otherwise, we would be able to see, like I am sitting in the temple and I am looking at the Lord's Vigraha. I should be able to see His opulence. The way Vyas Muni realized, like he looked at the Lord and he saw all the gunas around Him, all His energies around Him, all the demigods around Him, all His bhaktas around Him and praying to Him. We don't our ability to see and understand and realize is different. But you're right that anubhuti, the moment you feel, even if you feel, it's like you're holding to the hand of the parents. You're just holding. It's two fingers of yours holding, say, the one finger of your parents. Doesn't matter. You are unable to. Let's say it's a dark path. You can't see the parent, but just that touch is important. That itself is comforting, that itself is guiding, that itself is loving. So that anubhuti is so important. Actually, last week I was going to speak of it, and then I said maybe in the next class we'll speak of it. But what you're talking about, if you really get to the heart of it, it is mat chittaha. Mat is Krishna, me, and chitta, my consciousness. Now see the beauty of Prabhupada. What did he name this entire movement? Krishna consciousness, mat chittaha. So that's what it is, Prabhu. The moment we become conscious of Him, the rest of the things don't matter. In chapter 2, I think verse 51 or 52, somewhere it says that, once you know, there is nothing else to know, there is nothing to speak, nothing to hear, there are no doubts. the Hridaya Granthi is, the knot in the heart is taken out, the knot of doubt, confusion is taken out. It's so clear. So that's what it is. Matchittaha, being in Krishna consciousness all the time, that anubhuti, that he is there with us. If you just know that he is in the heart, you will just see how your day changes, how your actions will change, how your perception will change, how you respond to situations will change. So you're so right, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Start days for such a nice knowledge, such a nice. I don't know. It looks like it's coming from your hriday, not just like coming. Such a nice thing. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Vikas Prabhu, Danvat Pranam. Uh, thank you so much, Prabhuji, for this nectar class and explaining 3 verses. And yes, I met in temple Vinod Prabhu, and he was requesting me that we should invite Vikas Prabhu here. So, Prabhuji, you have one more invitation to Maryland now.
Yeah, Prabhuji, I will be very happy, to take time off and do whatever you want me to in your service.
So please come, Prabhuji, and let us know when can you visit Maryland.
Thank you, Prabhu, for your kind words. Thank you, Mataji, for your kind words. Really, really, really know this. I am not trying to be modest or anything. There is a saying in Hindi, Allah Mehban to Gadha Pelwan. It's so true for me. I
No,
have no
Prabhuji.
I have no quality. Seriously, I have no quality.
No, Prabhuji. That's your humbleness, Prabhuji. That's humility. We need to learn from you. Mm. Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Please plan sometime, Prabhuji, to Maryland. Yes. Yeah. Anybody has any question or comment? Okay. So let's pay ourselves to all the Vaishnavas. Vancha kalpatarvesha kripa sindhu vacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anant koti Vaishnavanda ki jai.
Yes.
Acharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki jai.
Yes.
Jai Prabhupada ki jai.
Yes.
Gita ki jai.
Yes.
Lord
Jai.
His
Premanandi,
Grace
Hari
Vikas
Hari
Prabhu
Bol.
ki jai.
Yes.
Thank
Jai.
Hare
you,
Hari,
Krishna.
Prabhuji.
Hari,
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Hari,
Love
Hari
you.
Bol, Hari
Thank
Bol,
you.
Hari Bol.
Hari
Hari,
Bol.
Hari Bol.